Hey everybody, it's Bust with Bust Builds Decks number 34. Today we will be battling with our 3-star Jhin up against Aurelion Soul on the 4-star Forge quest. And so the 4-star the 4-star Starforger quest. And so Jhin is a very interesting champion. As far as the new path updates go, he has unfortunately not received a constellation. We only get to play with Jin's forearm out here. We don't get to play with the remainder of his body, strangely sexual as that may be. But Jhin is the complete package as far as a champion is concerned for what we're looking for out of our path decks. And so I mentioned in every video, everything we want all of our decks to have is one way to scale. We want to have a way to elusive, overwhelm, or rally, and then we want to have a way to unconditionally remove a unit from combat. And Jin's kit thankfully just takes care of all of that. And so in terms of scaling, the 2-star ability on Jhin, that when an ally plays a skill, you grant them +1/+1, covers all of the growing needs that we can do. Jhin very easily stacks up a lot of skill power on his own between the Lotus Trap and his attack ability. Very easy anytime an attack happens to just grant like +7/+7 to your whole team. And so the scaling aspect completely covered. The next piece of that is the unconditional removal. Jhin also has that within his own deck with his 3-star power for the 4th fast spell, slow spell, or skill you play. You create a 0-cost captive audience in deck. You can't see both halves of the Oh, it's just the front half of it up here. I saw the deal 3 and thought we were done. The captive audience either deals 3 to an enemy unit or it stuns an enemy unit. So we can use that stun, shut down the Watcher, shut down the big overwhelm. We've got that covered. Last but not least, as far as the elusive overwhelms or rallies go, we aren't technically going to be elusive, overwhelming, or rallying here, but it's very easy for Jhin to stun the entirety of the opposing team. And so up front, Jhin does have just access to the Lotus Traps. The Lotus Trap putting the stun on the opposing unit for the 3rd skill that you play each turn, but we're really going to try and ramp that up with the relics. We're going to be using the Tempest Blade, so when I level up, I stun all of the enemies. I'm not certain when this was added to Path. It has to have happened more recently, as the last time I was really into Path, it wasn't a part of the game, but this is a fantastically strong item for Jhin to be using. Since we don't shoot for that elusive, overwhelm, or rally, we're just shooting for stuns. Being able to level up Jhin in the middle of combat, stun the entirety of the team, and then our units just all go unblocked. It's essentially like making a second attack off of a rally, right? When I speak to elusive, overwhelm, or rally, the thing that we're really worried about is we say attack with 100 power of units, the opponent blocks everything, they don't take any damage, and then they get to move on to their next turn unfazed, and they get to rebuild their board. And so with an elusive, you just don't get blocked. With overwhelm, you deal damage through the blockers, and with rally, you attack, kill all of their blockers, attack again, and get the win. And so that last scenario was what the Tempest Blade is very similar to where when our Jhin upgrades or when our Jhin levels up, we stun the entirety of the team. They're not going to be able to block. We get that full strike of damage in. It's very interesting with Jhin in the sense that number one, whenever he attacks and throws all of the skills onto the board, the Tempest Blade is not a skill. It is a burst speed ability. So what we're going to be seeing very frequently out of these attacks is we'll attack with Jhin and all of his friends. It's going to load up like 6 or 7 or 8 skills out into the stack area. He's going to flip in the combat, stun everything, and then get a little bit of extra value in the sense that if we don't completely finish off the opponent, then Jin's stun abilities are going to start to hit. And so if the opposing units are all stunned, we attack, deal a bunch of damage to all of the stunned enemies. So hopefully, at least if we don't finish off the game, we'll at least clear out the entirety of their board. Last but not least, I feel like Jhin isn't a champion that needs a ton of help. I kind of waffle around on what I like to have as the remaining relic. I tend to just use the Lost Chapter anytime I don't really know what I want, since it's so good to just play the champion and get all of that mana back. And so here, what we're going to be looking for in the deck today is, since it is all very well orchestrated, if you put it at this point. Man, that's a great thing for Jhin, right? The deck is very well orchestrated in terms of being well balanced with the scaling, the rally, and the stuns, that we can look to just maybe add in some spells. So as soon as we drop our Jhin, our attacky units are ready to go, and then we have a spell backed up to interact with the opponent. If you haven't got your Jhin up to 3 stars to where you're getting the free captive audiences, and the lost chapter becomes much, much more important as you do get that or you would have to pay the 2 mana for the captive audience. Having that lost chapter mana really helps to pop those off. And so that is it. That is what we'll be doing battle with today. Get ourselves down here to old Aurelion Soul. See if we can't work towards finishing off this quest. Good stuff. So, as I've been saying in these, I'm not going to show every battle. That just takes way too long. We'll show the first one here up against this Poppy. We'll show one of the middle ones, probably the one against Ashe, and then up towards the end, we'll show the Aurelion Soul battle. We just speed through all of the other ones, try to keep the video down to a half hour, 45 minutes or so. And so our Jhin is ready. Let's jump on in. Let's check these powers, see what we can do. And so things like the Emperor's Diaz, I don't really like. We want units on our board generating skills. That does not do it. Duelist is fine, but it's not really a good early build around. And then the same with Rush Them Down. When you summon an ally, give it 1/1. Let's take a reroll. Counterfeit Copies don't want. Hallowed don't want. Survive Damage don't want. Maybe we'll find something better. And ooh, here we go. Allies have Overwhelm. And so while we don't specifically need something like Crush, right? We do have a lot of ways to just shut all of the opposing units out of combat. It's still one that can be very useful with Jhin. If we're not making the big combo turn, there's a very good chance that we'll Lotus Trap an opposing unit, but it still gets to block. And so if all of our units have Overwhelm, it just basically ensures any unit that's going to get Lotus Trap stunned is not really going to be an effective blocker for that round. So always happy to pick up Crush. We should definitely get some good usage out of it here. Now let's jump into this battle with Poppy. And so the foe adds the random item to each card in their deck at the beginning of the game. It's not the Nexus. It's not the Tryndamere Nexus. It's the one I always forget about. And so we don't have to worry about that. But reasonable enough start. I would prefer to have something a little bit more attacky than the Mana Soul Student, so we'll get rid of that. I'm kind of uninterested in the Mystic Shot. It just doesn't kill anything important against the Poppy deck, but I guess it can come down and kill maybe like a Yordle Quick Attacker or something, and that could be a little bit useful here in the early game. Right, it's never going to come in and kill Poppy, but there are a handful of units that we could potentially take down, at least prevent some of those big, nasty, full board quick attacks, or maybe prevent the stat bonus that Poppy just gets. And here's the guy, the Yordle Quick Attack, and he's just a 3/3. That's a bummer. It's good to know, I guess, but I was intending on just removing that guy from the board. But we'll still just swing in everybody, right? We're all going to grow as all of our units use the skills. Even if our units weren't going to grow, it was still going to be a pretty reasonable attack. And now, very close to finishing off the game. Good stuff, good stuff. Nice start. We can just drop a stun onto Poppy. She's not that scary this turn anyways, but she doesn't even get to come down, doesn't even get to party. I thought she was reduced cost in this. Sucks to suck, I guess. Alright, what do we got? Let's play some units just to make sure that this turn ends. I don't think we're going to struggle here, but just in case. There's not too much that Bandle City could really do to stop this attack. This is going to get our Jhin leveled up. Just one short. We could flip him in the middle of combat just to show what this stuff is going to do. It would be a little bit challenging to see here, but if we say drop the Mystic Shot, drop the Captive Audience, you're going to immediately see Jhin flip. And so the Babbling Balladeer should get stunned out before this animation hits out here. Here it is, the old Jhin flip. Getting them guns ready. There's the Tempest bringing the stun first, right? That's burst speed. It's also kind of interesting seeing our board here as the stack is completely full, and the Tempest still gets to hit. So very, very useful, very powerful ability there. You can use it offensively just to remove all of the blockers. You can use it defensively to keep the opponent from attacking you. Very powerful stuff for a champion like Jhin that doesn't really need any help. All right, so what you got for us? Not a great collection of units, but I don't really want to burn any rerolls. And so adding in the Legion Saboteur is kind of fine. I'm also like a little interested in the Kelp Maidens. Just picking up a 5/4 elusive unit does give us a little bit more combat effectiveness if it's a space where we're just getting blocked, but we shouldn't have to worry about the blocks too much. I typically like to just keep these Jhin decks as cheap as possible, and Legion Saboteur really plays to that, even though the Faded ability is probably not going to be useful. But who knows, maybe we'll pick up Nico or something as a support champion, have that Fae unit running around. Sure, that would be super useful. But what do we have going on here? Interesting, the Legion Saboteur pops up again. We already have that in our deck, right? No, it's just the 2 copies. I thought we were going up to a 4 stack of Legion Saboteur with the Faded thing. But the Draven is kind of interesting. Draven is a very powerful champion. Picking up a removal spell with him as well is not that bad. I keep thinking back to the run that we just did with Misfortune and the champions all having Scout. I'm looking at these champions and being like, why don't you have Scout? Why don't you have Scout? Very, very strange to see. But I could definitely see picking up the Draven. It does really give us a lot of usefulness in terms of what our deck is looking for. Otherwise, there is Gnar with the round start draw me or game start draw me. And Gnar's not horrible. He does have access to Pokestick, which is a nice cycling way to pick up a skill, but the Stone Stackers and the Spotted Toad don't really play towards what our deck is trying to do. Just kind of the downside to Draven is we're probably not going to have anything to just discard the Spinning Axe, and so he's going to be challenging to make effective here. And so I think I'm going to pick up the Gnar and then just look to probably take the Stone Stackers and the Spotted Toad out, right? The Jhin deck is pretty good as it is. Right, there's not any cards that I look at the Jhin deck and I'm just like, oh man, I got to get this thing out of here because it sucks so much. Things like Avarosian Marksman aren't that great, but it's not just completely dead. And so I think the Gnar will be okay here. I think it'll give us a little bit more than Draven, and then we don't have to burn a reroll, which is kind of useful as well. And so moving forward, we can either go to a shop, go to a gold chest, or go to a monastery of Harana. Forget what the monastery does, so let's find out. I don't think it lets us cut cards, but that might be on the table. I can't remember if this was just one that was just as bad as the card itself is or not, and so we'll have to see. So interesting post-battle spoils. Adding stuff to these captive audiences is fantastically strong. And so not only is this going to put captive audience into our deck, which I'm not super excited about, but it's not horrible. All of the captive audiences that are generated by Jhin are going to be creating cards from the Emperor's deck, which is absolutely fine, right? If we're going to carry on this idea to where, Jhin is just going to be the absolute top end of our deck, he's going to be the most expensive thing that we play, then having these captive audience generate those really high-powered plays out of the Emperor's deck really just solidifies our late game. And so I think that's going to be a fantastic addition. I like where our deck is heading with that. See what the Monastery of Harana does. So you can take refuge, you can heal, you can meditate, which lets you cut copies of something from your deck. Oh, okay. So it does let you cut stuff, but it's just not, you don't get your real choice. And then you can add an item to something, which I'm not opposed to. Adding quick attack to Jhin is kind of nice, but I think I just want to get these Yones out of our deck while we have the chance. And then we're just going to keep on track with that to where we only look to get cheap cards in our deck. Okay, so not the most powerful collection of cards in the next set. I definitely don't want to pick up the Blastcone Seedlings. It just doesn't really add anything to what our deck is trying to pull off. Now, I'm not opposed to the Vulpine Wanderer. This is a very value-centric card, right, with the strike ability to draw one while also adding the stance swaps to our hand. And I think that we could probably get decent usage out of this stance swap. If we just like play Jhin, get all the mana from the Lost Chapter back, and then play a stance onto Jhin, that's probably not the worst thing that you could do. And since we are trying to cut these expensive cards out of our deck, I'm not really interested in the Ursine Spirit Walker. We already have Overwhelm coming down onto all of our units, and so I don't think he's going to be super relevant here. So moving forward, we got the epic item chest. What do we got? Oh, Jesus, another captive audience with the doubling dice? All right, that's sounding pretty good to me. So the stage hand and the thermogenic beam are actually decent here. Don't really need the elusive on the stage hand with this deck, but he is still a very strong attacker. The beam is something I kind of look to cut. It's just not that strong on the Aurelion Soul run when all of the opposing champions have double stats. And so this doubled up captive audience, this is going to be something special. I can't wait to just chain a bunch of these onto the opponent. So that looks good. I'm kind of tempted to skip over the shop and just cut more cards out of our deck. What would we even want? Like the Spotted Toad can go? Yeah, I'm happy with that. We can look to cut that here. Boop. All right. Continue on to Ashe. There it is. There's that Tryndamere Nexus. We'll see if we can forget about that once we get into the middle of combat. Happens literally every single time, and so try our best here. But nonetheless, let's hang on to the Crackshot Corsair. Like having these early plays. I'd like to spend all of our mana every turn of the game in the early game on these units, and then ideally follow up with Jhin on turn 4. We're getting close. Very 4-drop heavy hand here, but maybe we'll at least get to drop another unit next turn. Who knows? Maybe you play the captive audience and then doubling dice into a bunch of giant plays. This stage hand, not that spectacular. Yeah, I think we want to go ahead, drop this in, see if we can't pick up. I don't know if we hit that like 4/4 for 2 mana out of the Emperor's deck. That would be decent. He didn't turn up. That's a bummer, but I think I'm just going to keep casting these spells. Maybe something useful will get here. Just more captive audiences. We're not even. Are we gonna still have a target for it? Oh my gosh, this is gonna be bonkers. This is gonna be sick. So we can't play any of these cards. A little bit unfortunate there, but not a bad usage out of the singular doubling dice.
All the world on one arrow. If we seek forgiveness, we must commit all.
All right, well, we'll at least get into combat with Ashe here. I don't think they typically have ways to stop this damage coming in from the stage hand. And then it does give us a... oh, shit, we're just going to Lotus Trap it. No, Jin's not on the board. It's not going to stun. Okay. A lot going on with that. I don't think we have to worry about Ashe. I mean, we have the captive audience. We can just... Well, we can just remove her from the board now. I'm a little bit more interested in actually just stunning the Ashe in case he would have another one behind, right? It kind of sucks to kill this Ashe off with the captive audience and then have him play a second one, but now that he's spent all of his mana, we don't have to worry about that. We're just going to run out of space in our hand. We just bank this into the next turn. I mean, now that we've got Jhin on board, I guess we can go ahead and take the unit down.
I will give them a show to remember.
It's like we miss out on a little bit of damage. Why didn't he level up? Oh, it wasn't Jin's skill that we just played. Okay, gotcha. So let's get the Emperor's Guard in. We should be getting this attack with the Steel Tempest and stunning the entirety of the opposing team. Like, everything should be coming down here. We need one more skill to really pop off with Jhin, right? If we want to get the 4 damage Jhin strike in. He's at 10 of 12 right now, and now that we've picked up the Legion Saboteur, we should be able to make an attack here to where Jhin does the 4 damage hit instead of the smaller one. What else can we get on board here? We can drop the stone stackers in. We can then Shimmering Mirage something. Looks like it's probably more damage to come from the Emperor's Guard. Now we're off to the races.
Our performance begins.
Oh shit, he's got that fucking ability. I always forget. I knew I was gonna forget. I knew it. Alright, well, I think this attack is still the way to do it. It says he's only taking 3 damage here. Got to try and figure out how to deal 14. I know we've got 10 coming from these two Emperor's Guards, but
We must all play our part.
I don't think we're going to do a full 35 off of this attack. So there's the stun. More stuff. There's the 4 damage thing from Jhin. So that's at least what we're kind of aiming for. I know it's not super important in this space to get it exactly right, but if you're playing on a lower level quest or something with your high ranked Jhin, then you have a lot of thinking to do in terms of stacking those abilities in the right order. But let's go ahead and take this stun onto Ashe. As long as she can't attack this turn, I think we're going to be completely fine. Just captive audience after captive audience. This doubling dice is ridiculous. We need a... I was thinking we need something like Mana Soul Student, but in the form that doesn't limit yourself to 1 a turn. Well, seems reasonable. Can probably stop there. We'll just take this attack on the next turn. We're going to get a Lotus Trap as soon as we attack, and even if we didn't, we wouldn't need it. So, send this squad in.
Hey, ready? Aim.
Places, people. I have
Alright, now it says we got that neg 32. Seeing a whole host of skills come out. There's a Lotus Trap to get the stun onto Ashe. It's like an easy lethal. GG. Coming together nicely. Ooh, those captive audiences are good. I can already tell what's going to happen. We're going to get to the final boss. We're going to get to Aurelion Soul. And we're going to need the 50-50 on the doubling dice to win the game, man. Just it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
and with that, perfection.
Perfection. Alright, so what do we got? I definitely want to be stacking Jhins in this. Just getting Jhin on board is the most important thing we can do, and so we're just going to pick copies of him for literally every single item the rest of the way through. I think we'll probably just go for the Spell Shield. We should be keeping the opposing units stunned in combat, so we don't need something too defensive. But if they're able to remove our Jhin off the board, we're going to struggle, and so we'll take that Spell Shield to give him a bit of protection. Moving into the powers, what do we got? We don't have attachments. When you summon an ally, give it a keyword is fine, and when you draw a card, give your allies 1/0. We don't have a ton of card draw in this deck, just really the Pokey Stick and randoming into stuff out of the Emperor's deck. And so the welcome gifts are fine. It's not really great, but it's not terrible, and so I don't think it's worth a reroll. Moving forward through the chain, we got a Robe Maker up top, a spells chest, or an item chest, and kind of leaning towards going towards the item chest and seeing if we can't just stack our Jhin a little more. And we also get this sweet Jhin mirror match coming up. Okay, so interesting set of cards in the post-battle spoils. The Maker with the Consuming Wrath, giving it 7 attack with that recall ability is something quite interesting, right? That's the kind of interactivity I can get behind having in a deck like this, just really mana effective for what we can do. I think that's where we're going to go. Otherwise, the stacking in Legion Saboteurs here isn't terrible. I mean, the support ability is fine. It makes us a very, very, very stat effective type unit. And while I do love an Udyr, he is just a little bit too expensive here. And so I'm kind of going back and forth on what I would really prefer here, if we want to really just streamline our deck with the Legion Saboteur, or if we want to go a little bit more high powered with the Maker. The downside with the Maker is, like, as we do get up to Aurelion Soul, it's never going to bounce a champion, and it can't really bounce all of the dragons either, right? They do have a lot of spell shielded dragons that the Maker is not going to take down, and so I think I'm just going to pick up the Legion Saboteur here, so that we can just really hone in on these early plays. And so it's also kind of interesting in the sense that if we ever want to cut it. That's cutting 6 cards out of our deck. That's a pretty big removal. I don't think this is the style of deck to where you want to do that, but it's something that's definitely on the table. And so now there's the item chest at the bottom. Really looking to load something up on Jhin. It hasn't turned up here though. The question is, do we want to start taking rolls here? Like, I could definitely get interested if, you know, Jhin turned up, or if the Legion Saboteur turned up here as well. These cards are kind of okay. And like, I don't like the Marksman. I don't want to summon off the Thermogenic Beam. It really comes down, do we want to upgrade this Boom Crew Rookie, or do we want to like hang on to our rerolls till we get to the item, like the epic shop right at the very end? And it's probably worth just waiting until we get to the end and see if we can't really ramp up the power of our deck. And so we'll level up the Boom Crew Rookie. I'm kind of okay with that. And now we'll be going up to battle against Karma. So moving on, not the greatest collection of cards. I don't really want to add in more copies of Gnar. Like, I really like Gnar since he starts in our opening hand, but I don't want to draw a second copy after that. Like, I guess the Wallop is kind of okay, but like given the strength of these captive audiences, I just don't think it's going to be very good. And so I'll go with the Arachnoid Sentry. It's not that great. It does come down in stun. I really want these units that have the recurring skills and not just use once abilities, but I guess it's okay. It just doesn't strike me as being that spectacular. Then into the shop, definitely want to pick up a power. Allies with equipment or attachments have +2/+2. It just doesn't really work for me. I'm going to take the roll just to look for anything that is just like marginally useful. Green Glade Lookout, fine. I guess that's okay. As far as these other cards, Zenith Blade has some usages. Probably just a little bit too slow. All of our units have Overwhelm, so I guess we don't really need to look at it. Chakram Dancer is a very powerful ability in the deck that we have, just so expensive, and I don't feel like we need it, and so I'm going to skip over that as well. None of these other cards are really that interesting, just a bunch of Bandle City nonsense that isn't on point, and so we'll skip over that track. Then moving forward, we have another shop right after Yasuo. We can go through it and then lead that into the battle with Fizz. Dispatched Yasuo, not the greatest set of cards here. I don't really want this free attack Lord Broadmane. It's not just you're playing your landmark unit and making him immediately attack. It kind of sucks. Otherwise, the Stalking Wolf doesn't do anything within our deck, and so I think we're stuck taking this Thermogenic Beam. Now, it does have that kind of bonus to us that it's a very strong cuttable card, getting the 4 copies of Beam out of our deck, but I don't like adding bad stuff to our deck, just for the kind of sake of doing that. Now moving here, the Feral Prescience each turn is fine. I don't love it, but it's all upside. Could look to pick up a Ravenbloom Conservatory to get those Tybalax, but he's going to be so expensive. He's just never going to come on board, so I don't really want that. Ladros and Cavalier are off theme. Same with the Dragon down here. Could get the Mana Gem on the Arachnoid Sentry. I guess that's a reasonable addition just to get the one additional copy within our deck, but definitely don't want to stack in anything more than that. So moving forward, yeah, we'll go to the healer. I'm going to cut this Thermogenic Beam, get the 4 versions of it out, Moving on to Fizz, he's got the inventory. He's got the items on every card within the deck. Let's see how it goes. Right, good start. Got that captive audience. I don't know if you watched the Yasuo game on Fast Forward, but we hit like 8 captive audiences in one turn. It was pretty impressive. And so we'll see if we don't bring something like that here against Fizz. Didn't play the Feral Prescience just to get it out of our hand. Looking for Jhin. He doesn't turn up, so I'm just going to discard everything. Looks like we can just take Fizz off the board on turn 1. Never complain about that. Lots of new folks out here now that we're switching into the Path of Champions. I'm hitting them with all the words real good. You know, we've got to say Emperor's Diaz in this. We've got to say Feral Prescience. It's only a matter of time before Vigio turns up. Say something like Demacia. Get everybody super salty at my inability to say words. Feels good. It feels good. I'm glad I can be here to help and assist. What do we got though? There's the Jhin off of the Prescience. Might as well try and take this Fizz off of the board. Is this just a burst speed prank he has in hand? No, mercenary manners. Don't even know what that is. Steal an enemy follower with 3 or less health. All right. I guess that exists. Nothing? You got nothing for us? Dang, dude. Ooh, I saw that Feral Prescience come into our hand, and I was worried that we were going to overdraw our Jhin. That would have been a bummer. Anything useful here? Jhin's not that great anymore. We'll just take the Sentry for the mana boost. And then Jhin is at 4 of 12. He's going to be pretty far from flipping this turn. I don't think we can deal 20. Oh, we can deal 20, but this is just what we have on board. All right. We can drop some more skills in combat to try and finish this off. But right, this is the main reason I was very interested in the Overwhelm Relic. Right, you can see the things happening here. The Lotus Trap stun going onto the Xerxes Hatchling. It's not going to prevent any damage because it's going to get stunned out of combat and we have Overwhelm. And so very powerful stuff there. Now we do have this same kind of deal with the block from the Petty Officer. We just get it removed, come in for the full set of damage. And what a joke of a boss. That was nothing about that round was challenging. And so go us, go team. Why didn't the game end? God damn it. I thought we were done. I thought we were out of here. It said when we lined up the attack, it said we were going to do neg 20. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe I messed something up in that. Bummer. We'll keep dropping in these doubling dice. There's a Mystic Shot to help maybe end the game. I don't think he'll do anything relevant. I mean, we have the we have the means to take the Powder Keg off the board if he's going to try and do a big burn spell or something. I'm not particularly worried about any of this stuff that's about to happen. Maybe, I wonder if we could have just Lotus Trapped through this turn and got all the trap hits in this round. But Fizz out here just ruining our speed run. Who needed that?
Bliss comes in the moment before I fire.
Oh, planned it that way. Mystic Shot. Planned it. That's what I meant to do the whole time. The whole time I had that planned out. All right, GG. Heading up the mountain. All right, so what do we got here? Definitely picking up Jhin. And then I talk about this Reckoner Mark a lot. I really like it just when our champion is so built around he is Jhin. We can't risk, like what's going to happen is we're just going to play Jhin and he's going to strike into like an 18-18. So we can't really take it here. The Power Rift should be decent with Jhin though. Let us play him a turn earlier or something. No complaints about that. Moving into the powers. What do we got? Game Start Summon Husks is kind of okay. It strikes me as maybe a little bit better than the Fixer Upper. You get less stats, but you get the keywords out of it. It would be the main difference there. And it also gives you some stats potential in the first turn of the game. So if we're trying to play like 2 Crackshot Corsairs and then open attack, the fixer-upper would have already passed on the bonus to where we do get the upgrades from the easy prey. I could see it either way. I'm going to go with the easy prey here because I think the keywords are probably a little bit more important, but I could see an argument for picking either one. So now moving forward, we can either go towards cut a card or we can go towards the shop. I typically lean towards going towards the shop. Like the card cuts that we have aren't super strong, right? I would like to cut out the Avarosian Marksman if we had the chance, or I would cut out Stone Stackers if we had the chance, but it's not super necessary. It's not clogging up our deck that much. So I will go towards the shop, look to pick up a good epic relic, and then use that to go the rest of the way up the mountain. Alright, so off we go. Not the greatest set of cards. I don't want to add in the Maker or the Witness, so I'll just pick up the Mana Soul Student with the Ephemeral. It's kind of a landmark unit which you don't really want to get rid of, but it is what it is. Like I think we might get that one big attack out of it anyways. Otherwise, we'll take whatever the power is. Buy a Sting Officer. That's not epic, but it's a unit for the first turn of the game, I guess. Otherwise, I'm a little interested in Spirits Unleashed. I know that it's not going to be good in our deck, but I get excited from the space of Constructed. I really loved Spirits Unleashed in PvP, and so pour one out for your fallen friends. I really missed that. But otherwise, the Sunburst is actually pretty interesting in the Aurelion Soul rounds. Being able to silence the stats off the opposing unit does give you a way to take the big champions down, but I think it's just going to be a little bit too slow here. And then the one I'm really kind of looking at is Riptide Rex. Now, Riptide Rex doesn't go full power in the Jhin deck because he does interact weird with Lotus Traps, right? So Riptide Rex, he hits the board, he tries to put the 7 Cannon Barrages on the board, but it's going to go Cannon Barrage, Cannon Barrage, Cannon Barrage, that's 3, and then put a Lotus Trap, and then 3 more Cannon Barrages and a Lotus Trap, and then 1 more Cannon Barrage to fill out the full 9 spaces on the board. And it's probably just not that good here as well. As I think about it more, just having those big champions on the board, it's not even really going to chunk down their stats, and so I think we'll let that go. Let's take a reroll. It's our last one. We'll see if anything interesting happens. Siphoning Strike, not terrible. Scholarly Pioneer, I kind of like him. With the Last Breath Rally attached to a Challenger unit, we could probably make something work with it. And then Riptide Rex, Flame Spitter, Dragon, don't want. And so, okay, I'll get behind the Pioneer here. It's not super effective, but get us that rally. The thing I worry about is we're going to need to deal like the 80 damage to Aurelion Soul or whatever, and we attack and we can only do 50. And so getting that usage out of the Pioneer hopefully gets us to that over the top that we need. Getting up to the final battle, adding the Can't Block to Jhin, probably okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and snatch that one up, get those 2 extra copies of Jhin into the deck, and then go up against Aurelion Soul. And so it's one of the big ones. The round start, the foe gets the mana gem, lets him play Aurelion Soul in like turn 3 or so. And so I think we're still okay. We can still stun through everything that he's doing, but gives you a little bit of pause for concern. So all right, let's shuffle away one of these gens. Otherwise, the hand is probably good enough. Well, let's get rid of the Mystic Shot as well. It's probably not going to do anything here. What I was wanting to kind of think of is if we get to draw Gnar, right? We have the thing to where if he's not in our opening hand, we get to draw Gnar. Then we get to play Jhin on the first turn of the game. But if we end up missing, or if we mulligan into Gnar, then we're not going to be able to play Jhin here. And so it's not a super huge chance, but I could definitely see the argument for hanging on to Mystic Shots and the like just to ensure that they don't go away. What happened here? What is Jhin? Did the Husk have Deathless? Oh, okay. The Husk had Deathless and then it came back. I don't know if I've seen that happen before, but it certainly works out for us here. Now in this space, don't want copies of Jhin. The stage hand should be fine. And then we have a decent-ish attack. Oh, I thought Jhin had Challenger. Hang on. So let's just send in the elusives and move forward. So I think this is okay. We do want to kind of build up to having a very skill-centric attack on the next turn. Ideally, something that can rally, right? If we're not able to finish the game on turn 3 here, we might find ourselves struggling. And so maybe something will come with that. A bit annoying having him at Anivia and having that minor AoE across our team. I guess a bunch of our dudes did hit Deathless, so it's not the end of the world, but it's not awesome. So Jhin can't block. Might as well just block both of his guys, right? He's going to Anivia blast. They're going to die. The combat's going to end, but we still get to keep our units. So happy enough with it. Alright, Sting Officer comes back. It is a bit of a bummer that our Jhin lost his Spell Shield. Now, I think if he levels up, he gets the Spell Shield back. I'm always a bit confused with how that interaction works, but we'll see if that's a thing. Just going to pick up the Captive Audience off the Feral Prescience to make sure we get a access to our big combo card. Now pop the Spell Shield on Anivia, and I mean, I don't see us getting 40 out of this turn, but we should at least get a fairly strong attack here. So what are the things to kind of note with Jhin? If you're like, what I want to kind of call out with this, we haven't had it really come up to this point, is like we make this attack, you can see that the Lotus Traps are going to pop off, and then you can see that it lands on the Moondreamer. And so if you are trying to set up some of these skills to where you say want to hook in a unit with the Sting Officer so that the Tryndamere isn't blocking, or if you want to say pull the Sting Officer in front of Jhin to guarantee that he would get damage in later, you have some options there. And so it can be very critical with Jhin to kind of look at your cards like that. But I don't think it's going to matter just yet. I'm just going to keep stacking in these Captive Audiences. We're very close to generating another one in our hand. I think I saw that with our initial attack looking there. Lotus Trap kicks off, then we should get another Captive Audience. I think we can just stun his whole team this way. It's going to be a matter of, will our Jhin activate enough skills so that he can get enough attack power, right? What are we at this point? 22. But once he flips, he's going to deal a lot more damage. Mana Soul Student's going to deal more damage than the stage hand, so let's get it on board. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going for these stuns. So we'll stun Anivia. We'll go ahead and pop the Spell Shield on Aurelion Soul. See if we kick back any more free Captive Audiences out of this. Just one. Oh, there's some more. We got 3 now. That's a big number. So let's keep at it. We'll put a stun on Aurelion Soul. Now I'm just going to start killing stuff. We'll see how much of these we can get through. We should just be like maxing out our hand. I don't entirely think... I'm not certain what the order that those work in, to where if we want to just doubling dice it and not pick up the Emperor's cards. Let's see. I think we're here. I think we're good with this this Aurelion Soul kill. Got 2 more captive audiences. How much damage are we at? It's like he's done doing stuff. We need to pick up 1 more point of damage. Okay, so 1 more Lotus Trap will end the game, and then we should get this victory. Now he does still have 3 mana left over. I guess he could pick something up that would be problematic, but he hasn't done it yet. It says 37 now. Hopefully that's a GG. I don't know if he plays Hushes. I don't know if he plays Silences. Oh shit. It's like, as soon as it came across the board, it's like, fuck. Alright, I think we're still okay though. He shouldn't be able to attack and kill us here. I don't know, maybe he can't. We've at least popped the spell shields on everything, and so if we get to just like drop a unit on board, it might be okay. It's a 3 mana thing as well. It's typically a 5 mana spell. Coming free, Living Legends, Moonglow, and a double stun. Okay, that wasn't horrifically bad. Oh, we shouldn't have tried to stun Aurelion Soul. We should have tried to stun Tryndamere. Right, he has the big overwhelm power that can come through.
I will allow for
Picked up a captive audience though.
It was my heart.
Alright, let's
that
fix
led
that.
me
And then I guess there's a world where we still get to Lotus Trap him out of this, right? He's down to 2.
I am ready.
We've got a captive audience in hand. Just need a handful more skills to finish off that way. Oh, he just doesn't do anything. Okay. That's one way to lose, I guess. So we should just be able to get this Jhin attack in, and then that's a nice finish with the curtain call, getting that last zing of damage through. Look at that, 23 all in his own. That's a big swing. That's a big swing from old Jhin.
take your place, and our show
Alright, not bad. Good stuff. GG. Get off the mountain, a soul. We finished it today. And so, I feel like that was a pretty good run with Jhin. I was thinking that, you know, we probably really need the Emperor's deck thing on the curtain, not the curtain call, I can't remember what it's called. I'm going to call it the stage hand now, and I know that that's wrong, but the generated spell. And, you know, if we didn't hit the doubling dice, it would have been a completely different story, but I think you have to admit the doubling dice on that was pretty insane. That was crazy. We're going to pull up the end screen here, and it's not going to be the card of the game, right? They featured the card at Jhin, and Jhin was the supporting act of this. You know, he was the best supporting actor in this role today. The big winner was, of course, the captive audience having that doubling dice attached to it. And so, very powerful, very strong, especially when you're generating those free ones coming out of the Jhin abilities. So you get the free one in hand, and then you get the captive audience, generate more free ones from there, stun the entirety of the team, and do some pretty cool stuff. And so, good fun. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So if everyone enjoyed the video, hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bustin' Weed. Thank you for being here.